today we're going to ask ourselves the question, does size actually matter? This is something that can be so important when you're brewing coffee. We're going to break down the different particle sizes within the brew. We're going to look at some different grinders, whether it's a blade grinder, a burr grinder. We're going to play around with a Kruve Sifter to sift out those coffee particles, look at them side by side, and then we're going to brew 3 different coffees using different kinds of grinders and the Kruve Sifter, and then we're going to see how it tastes. So whether you are a home brewer or a coffee nerd, understanding grind size is very important to unlocking flavor and understanding particle distribution and extraction. So before hopping in and talking about these grinders that I have over here, I want to talk a little bit about roast profile and how it can affect the way a coffee brews. So I mentioned I'm going to be using this Rwanda carbonic maceration. This is a lighter roast, or what we consider a lighter roast here at Red Rooster. If a coffee bean is roasted lighter, it's going to hold in more moisture, and that means it's going to be more dense. Therefore, a finer grind is going to help extract those coffee solubles faster. If you have a darker coffee, you might want to grind it a little bit coarser because it doesn't need that extra help to extract faster because it's less dense. Just something to keep in mind as we move along with this experiment. This is kind of a staple in most folks' homes. This is what's called a blade grinder. And you'll notice it just has a blade and it just spins around. That's all it does. So essentially what it's doing is it's just chopping up the beans very inconsistently. Therefore, your extraction is going to be inconsistent as well. The only plus side to these is that they're a little bit cheaper. And so financially speaking, that can be a pro. But when it comes to optimum brew and optimum balance and coffee tasting good and extracting all of those coffee solubles that we love, the fats, the acids, and the sugars, it's going to all extract at different rates at different times, and there's no real control over the brew. What most folks use that have taken their brewing to the next level, and what we use here is a burr grinder. And the reason why we love burr grinders is because it is grinding everything consistently. Now there's still going to be some different particle sizes, but that's on purpose. For the most part, very consistent. So with the blade grinder, you don't have any adjustments. You're not able to make any adjustments. It's chopping it how it's going to chop it. And I say chop because that's what it's doing. With the burr grinder, you can make adjustments from fine to medium to coarse. Let's go ahead and grind our coffee using the blade grinder and using the burr grinder, and let's look at the differences in the grind visually. When we do our brewing experiment, I'm just going to use a V60. And so for a V60, we're looking for a medium to fine grind. Because I can make that adjustment on a burr grinder, I'm going to go ahead and do it. I won't be able to do it with this one, but I am going to make the adjustment and put it where it needs to be using the burr grinder. I'm going to brew the coffee using the same dose, same coffee, same water temperature. I'm not going to change any of those variables. I'm just going to change the fact that I'm using different grinders. 10 ounces, so I'll go ahead and I'll use 20 grams of coffee. I'm going to drop that down here into the grinder. Oh my God. So ready to go. There's our burr. Same dose, same amount, 20 grams. Okay. So as you can see, there are definitely particle sizes that are consistent with the burr. Blade, really large, bolder particle sizes. Gosh, look at that one. That one's huge. Now I want to introduce another tool. This is called the Kruve Sifter. And what it does is it is used to measure different particle sizes, and it measures in microns. So if, for example, this one says 800 microns. So this would be used for more like boulder sized coffee particles. This one back here is 200 microns. So this is what we might use for maybe say espresso. And what this is gonna do is we're gonna put our ground coffee in here, we're gonna sift it, and it's going to break up the different particle sizes. And we're gonna be able to see the different particle sizes inside of the Kruve Sifter. This is going to lead into our brew experiment where I'm going to brew using the blade grinder, the burr grinder, and then we're going to brew a third coffee using the Kruve Sifter, using 800 microns only for that third brew, and see what it does and how it affects the taste, the color, the aroma, and the extraction. I'm going to need to measure out a little more than 20 grams because we're going to lose a lot of coffee while sifting. And I'm just going to shake that just for about a minute and just make sure that everything is sifted at the same exact particle size that we're going to use to brew. Let's take a look at that. Consistent. This is all 800 microns here. Underneath it, wow. Definitely not going to have 20 grams here. Might have to do a little bit more. And then we have even smaller, almost espresso-like particle sizes here on the bottom one. By eliminating all the boulders, which are these larger particles, and replacing them with particles in the lower rangers, you're increasing extraction because the grind sizes are now smaller. The contrary is also true, so by eliminating these finer, smaller particles, you are decreasing extraction. By eliminating both fines and boulders, you are now drastically changing the strength of your coffee. So what we're going to do is brew using this one right here, which is the most resemblance to the pour over size grind size, just 800 microns. Visually, you can tell that that's the blade grinder. It has extremely large boulder particles and very, very fine, almost espresso-like particles. Then here we have our burr grinder, which looks very nice and even, consistent, nothing really noticeably different at all. And then over here we have our Kruve, our sifted coffee at 800 microns. What's really interesting about this is these look exactly the same. It doesn't look like this has been sifted at all, but we know that it has because we just got rid of all of those larger 1000 micron boulder sized particles, and we got rid of the extra fine 200 micron particle sizes that you might use for espresso. Before we get to brewing, I just wanted to remind everyone to go ahead and subscribe. If you like what we're doing and you want to see more, just hit that subscribe button. I'm gonna brew these and then I'm gonna blindfold myself and someone's going to mix these up so that I can do a blind tasting and not have any biased opinions. Just leveling out our brew bed. All right. Next up, I'm gonna do a little blind taste test. I'm doing this for you guys. It's what you asked for. Takes away any biased opinion. So I'm gonna have one of the cameramen step in and pour these into mugs. I'm gonna blindfold myself, and then once they're in mugs, I'm gonna try them and they're gonna let me know which one's which. And I think I have an idea of which one I'm gonna like, but I might be surprised. If I get it wrong, I'll quit. I'll quit the industry and do something else. I'll be a florist. I think I'd like that. But I don't want to be in charge of growing the flowers. Just arranging them and delivering them on a moped for you guys. Everything's getting cold, so let's not wait no longer. Okay. One thing I'm already noticing is there's so much more oil on the top of this one. This one's very clean and clear and under control. And this one's kind of in the middle, so it makes me wonder if this is, and I could be wrong, blade, Kruve, burr. But let's try them and see. I'm gonna try them all, and then I'll talk about each one. I'm pretty convinced this is the Kruve. It's one-dimensional, it's not bad. It's giving brightness, acidity, and sweetness, but lacking bitterness, which could mean it doesn't have any of those finer particle sizes, which would bring out more bitterness in the brew. This is a lot of fun. I like this. I like a challenge. Yeah, this is the blade. I really hope. But you know what? This could also be the blade because it's too watery, meaning it extracted faster, lacking complexity. I think this might be the blade because it's just really one-dimensional. It doesn't taste like much. It's lighter than the other two visually. I'm gonna say that's the blade grinder. for sure. Final answer. Now it's between these two. I may like this one a little bit better, at least with this coffee. It's enhancing the sweetness. This one's borderline like umami soy saucy, which I don't love. And this one is not as aggressive. It's more sessionable, it's easier to drink, it's a little more refreshing. So I like that about it. Okay, so this is Kruve, this is Blade, and this is burr grinder. Those are my final answers. These taste similar, but there is just a little bit more of a punch with this one. Moment of truth. Burr, I got that wrong. Okay, that's okay. I didn't dislike this one. I liked it, but there was something about this one, which is the Kruve. I'm pretty positive, I knew this one was the Blade. So it's really interesting because I thought that I would prefer the burr grinder brew to the Kruve because I don't normally use a Kruve sifter. I like slight different particle variations in my brew because it brings out a little bitterness, a little sweetness and acidity. Those different particle sizes can affect the way that the coffee is brewing, the way the coffee is extracted, and how it's ultimately gonna taste. In the past, when I've used the Kruve, I felt like it lost a little bit of its complexity, especially in the finish where that bitterness is. I'm someone that just really likes balance in their cup. But I like both of them, and I think that's where using the Kruve comes into play. I use the 800 micron sifter for the Kruve. Obviously, using a different size micron sifter will bring out different flavor qualities. So if I were to use, say, 400, 200, or even 1,000, this cup could taste considerably different. But as you noticed when we ground the coffee, they almost looked identical. I'm not disappointed with either two of these brews. I think it comes down to personal preference and what you like in your brew. Burr grinders produce more consistent and repeatable results, and the Kruve sifter is a great tool to use if you want to experiment with different grind sizes and how that can affect overall flavor. I encourage you to try this at home, try different grind sizes. If you have access to a Kruve sifter, maybe you want to experiment with that a little bit. Ultimately, does grind size actually matter? It absolutely does in reference to a burr versus a blade grinder. Blade grinders are way too inconsistent, ultimately will lead to under extraction of your coffee. I'll be the first to say that I'm not always right. I do get stumped sometimes. Give it a try at home. Let me know what you think. And don't forget to subscribe. Bye.